any equivalent to this Persian proverb, the yellow dog is the jackal's brother? Suppose you have a new boss and your former boss was a vicious and dictator one. Now you are visiting the new boss for the first time. He seems to be a nice person to you, but one of your colleagues who has worked with him before, after hearing your opinion about the new boss, would reply mockingly or sarcastically. Don't be fooled by his appearance. He is not better than the former boss. Actually, they are both as bad as each other. We Iranians have a proverb that implies none of these two people is better than the other, both of them are bad, evil, vicious. It literally says, "The yellow dog is the jackal's brother." Its etymology is like this. Once there was a mischievous jackal living in a village. He annoyed people so much that they expelled him from there. But he entered again, in disguise and as a yellow dog. Since people had a good opinion about dogs, accepted him and called him the jackal's brother, because he looked like the jackal. This time the jackal continued his vicious actions in secret, so the people couldn't find out the truth. But in a rainy day, the yellow color was washed off the jackal's body and the people found out the truth, so they said, "Oh, look. The yellow dog, or the jackal's brother, is the jackal himself." Is there any idiom, expression, or proverb that can be used for comparing two bad, vicious, or evil people that would imply, but this one is not less vicious than the other, both of them are bad? I have found they are two of a kind. Can I use it as an equivalent for that Persian proverb, with a negative connotation? P.S. In this proverb, the yellow dog is the symbol for a bad person, and the jackal is the symbol for a worse one. Although one of them seems better than the other, in practice both of them are horrible and act vicious. So to the people, there is no difference between them in practice. We use this proverb when comparing two vicious or bad politicians too. For example, if the new president fails to fulfill what he had promised in his campaigns about improving the situation of human rights and freedom of speech, and just acts like the former tyrant president, then unhappy people would say, "It is clear that this one isn't different with that former president. Actually, they are as bad as each other. As the proverb goes, the yellow dog is the jackal's brother, so we shouldn't be optimistic about any improvements in the human rights in the country in this person's presidency either." Here are two other examples that at Josh 61 has found in some websites, and a literal translation of that proverb is used in those papers. Yellow dog and his brother the jackal. Analysis: for Iran, the yellow dog is the brother of the jackal.
I would say, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. This means that although the parties in charge have changed, the living and working conditions have not. It apparently comes from the lyrics of the Who's song Won't Get Fooled Again by Pete Townsend.
There's small choice in rotten apples. A choice between the devil and the deep blue sea. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. One person is as bad as the other.
This is a similar situation that recently happened at my workplace, except that I found out firsthand how much worse my new boss is compared to my old boss. Referring to the impact this new boss has on our work environment, I warned a colleague who, like me, initially had positive expectations of the new boss by telling him, "We are out of the frying pan now." The idiom "out of the frying pan and into the fire" described for me the exact situation in which I had found myself. I thought that my troubles at work would depart with the old boss, and that things would greatly improve, but instead with the new boss only came new treacheries. While the wolf in sheep's clothing would apply to the face of innocence this new boss uses as a mask to cover inner evil, it doesn't fully describe how much worse the new boss is in comparison to the just as awful in a different way old boss. Lesser of two evils also has similar meaning, that with one or the other the fact of accepting evil either way still remains. Your use of each of them is worse than the other is a perfect description. It is helpful to have a phrase that describes these both entities separate from my own frying pan experience, but I don't know / can't find an idiom that I feel really fits yours. The difficulty is in matching the meaning and the use of predatory animals to describe the characters of people in relation to each other and to the proverbial village upon which they prey. It is the implied inherent tendency to predation in "the yellow dog is the jackal's brother" that is hard to match. To describe both bosses as one predacious entity, you could say, "You can't take the jungle out of the tiger." For lack of a traditional idiom or proverb, or even just an English colloquialism that can represent the archetype, I just refer to my new boss as President Coin, after a character in the young adult dystopian fantasy series The Hunger Games.
Consider. A new broom always sweeps clean at the beginning. Wait until a few bristles have worn, equals until the novelty shine has worn off, and you'll see it doesn't sweep any cleaner than the old one, damned with one, damned with the other. Two sides of the same coin. If two things are two sides of the same coin, they are very closely related although they seem different. Emphasis is mine. Cambridge Idioms Dictionary editorial. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are two sides of the same coin. Ted Cruz is not an acceptable alternative to Donald Trump. They are both dangerous demagogues. Cap times. Cut from the same cloth, made from, cast in the same mold. Meaning, be very similar, act in a very similar way. If you say two or more people are cut from the same cloth, you mean they are very alike or act in a very similar way. Ols. Speak the same language. To share similar beliefs and opinions. Cambridge Dictionary of American Idioms.
Sounds like they were both tarred with the same brush. Tarred with the same brush, having the same faults or bad qualities, as in he may be lazy, but if you ask me, his friends are all tarred with the same brush. This term is thought to come from sheep farming, where the animal sores were treated by brushing tar over them, and all the sheep in a flock were treated in the same way. The term was transferred to likeness in human beings in the early 1800s. Tarred with the same brush. N.D. McGraw-Hill Dictionary of American Idioms and Phrasal Verbs. 2002, retrieved April 20, 2016 from this URL.
If